So if I go out to your car and I take the keys to your car and I turn on your car, what kind of music am I going to hear? That's kind of interesting. I know for some of you say, well, you know, I play Christian music in my car, and that's all you're going to hear. You're going to hear Christian music. Some of you, when I got to your car, you got the oldie station on, the rock station, like the good stuff, right? Some of you, how many are you? Is that you? Come on, how about some of you go to your car, turn it on, it's country. It's all country. It's like the dog comes home and everything happens. It's awesome. Okay, some of you, maybe it's a little bit of rap or a little bit of something else. But here's what's interesting. Today we're going to listen to the music. Now, when you go to my car, it's like I don't have any music. My radio doesn't play music very much. It's like news. I'm really boring. But when I listen to music, it really moves me because it's powerful. Music is powerful. Today what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the music. The music we're going to listen to is some songs that have kind of cut through all the genres, that have some powerful messages that sometimes God uses in surprising ways. And today I want to ruin a song for you. I want you to hear this song, and instead of thinking about the song, you're going to think about this message, and you're going to be sitting next to someone and say, yeah, my pastor preached on that last week. Maybe you've never heard this song before. Maybe it's a song that you don't even know. But now when you're in the store or when you turn on the radio, this song's going to come on, and you're going to remember this message today. And we're going to connect Scripture to the words of a song that's going to be played. This song was written by Chris Martin, a band named Coldplay. If you don't know that band, interesting band. It's an 18-year-old song. It's actually Coldplay's, Pastor David would say, their signature song. But it's been remade over and over and over again by a number of different bands. Why is that? It's on the list of the best songs ever written. And when he got done writing this song, he says, this is the most important song I've ever written. He wrote it for his soon-to-be wife, Gwyneth Paltrow, who had just lost her dad. And she was depressed and she was struggling. And he wrote this song, and the title of the song is called Fix You, because he saw how much she was hurting. And so he writes this song. It's very different than lots of the other songs that you hear them do. So what I want you to do today, and what I invite you to do today, is to listen to the music, and then we'll talk about it. Listen to the music. Give these guys a hand, would you? Now, that song may not be familiar to you, but you're going to hear that in the future. You're going to hear it done by somebody else, and you're going to understand what's going to happen. This song is powerful, I think, because of its purpose. When you think about the purpose of the song, it's incredibly unselfish. We know a couple things. This song was played at Steve Jobs' memorial because he loved the band Coldplay, and this was the song that he wanted played at his memorial. Now this song reminds me of some pretty powerful scriptures. In fact, in 2 Corinthians 1:4, it tells us a little bit about the purpose that this song is written for. It says this: God comforts us in our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they're troubled, we'll be able to give them the same comfort that God has given us. So the song, the part that the song really gets right is this guy that's writing the song just wants to comfort his soon-to-be wife. He just wants to help fix her. He just wants to help her. And this unselfish desire is the purpose of this song. And it's the same way for you and I. If you think about this, you ask the question, why? Why is this so hard? Why am I struggling? Why do I have this problem? Why is it so difficult? Why did God put me through this? Here's why. Because whatever you're going through, whether it's your fault or whether somebody else created that in you, whatever you're going through, God wants to use that in the moment when you find someone else going through the exact same thing. He will help you talk about the comfort that God gave you when you needed it. See, there's a purpose to everything, so that he takes what we go through and he uses it for someone else. It's kind of interesting. In the next few days, I'm going to be taking pastors on a little getaway. And I've been doing this for the last 10 years. I realize as I've gotten along in my ministry years, I've been in ministry almost 40 years, and as I've gotten older in ministry, I realize that some of the stuff that I've been through, I can help others go through because I've been through what they're going through right now. And when I get these pastors away, one of the things I love to do is put them in difficult places. I've taken them on motorbike rides, given them antique bikes that sometimes don't run very well and sometimes break down, and I leave them out and have them figure out how to get home on their own. And sometimes they'll lay the bikes down and wreck, and one guy got a concussion, another got a huge road rash, and all we did as pastors is just laugh at him to put him in a stressful situation. And why do I put him in stressful situations? Why do you do that? Is so that you can discover what they're going to do when they're in a difficult place in that environment, because when you look at what's going to happen in their church environment, you discover how they're going to react. And I can coach him along the way. I think that this song helps people understand there's a purpose in all of our lives, that whatever you're going through, he's got you there for a reason, because you're going to help somebody else if you'll let him. So what I want to do just for a little bit is just again look at the words of this song, and I'm going to talk more about the scripture that kind of mirrors the words of this song, but I want to see if you can relate to how this song is written. So let's look at some of the words. Here's the first sentence. When you try your best, but you don't succeed. Does anyone relate to that? When you try your best, but you don't succeed. You know, it doesn't take me very long to figure out how I can relate to that. And then I can relate to that in this church, because I happen to know some of you play on the church softball team. And I've been out at the church softball team. I loved, my wife and I go out to cheer the team on. We love to watch the team and cheer the team on. And here's a fascinating thing. There'll be people on our team go up to bat, and there's this huge ball called a softball that's being thrown at a very slow rate. And in spite of all of that, they swing and miss the ball and strike out. And I look at that, I go, wow. You tried your best, but you didn't succeed, and their heads go down, and they go back to the... Can you relate to that? Or maybe they're running out, and the ball's up in the air, and I watch them, and it's really fun, and they're running, and you're sure they're going to get the ball, and instead of hitting the glove, it hits their forehead, and it's so entertaining. Have you ever watched that? It's so cool. It's amazing. Now, why? Because it's like you try your best. Right, Miko? Come on. It's like when you try your best and you don't succeed. Now, that's the way it is in everyday life. Now, I can relate too. Let me just show you this picture. This is where I tried my best. This wintertime, one of my pipes froze, and I decided to fix the pipe. So what did I do? I cut the pipe off. I went and got my own tea, and I was going to fix it the way I was going to fix it. And everything went really well. It seemed to work until last Tuesday, when I was on the way to church to work on this message, I got a frantic call from my wife who said, "There's a flood in our backyard. The pipe has blown up, and all of our new landscaping is headed downhill." And my best efforts were a huge failure. How about you? Can you relate to that today? What have you failed at, even though you tried your best? Look at that next line there. It says, when you get what you want, but not what you need. Now, this is kind of an insightful line. Who's got what they wanted, but not what they needed? Think about this. I was thinking all the different people. There's some people that want that next drink, but it's certainly not what they need. They want that next drug, and they need it so desperately, but it's not what they need. Right. Some people want that car that is so cool. I just love to have it, but they don't need the payments. Some people want that house, and it looks like exactly what their family needs, but that house is going to just take everything out of their lives. And it goes on and on. We want things so much, and then we get them, and it's not what we need. Now look at the next line. We can relate to this, can't we? When you feel so tired, but you can't sleep. Now, I don't know who here has trouble getting to sleep, but they've done lots of study. If you're a person that can't sleep, you can just kind of own that here. You're struggling with sleep. Here's a little research project. You know what they discovered? People who have trouble sleeping, the majority of people who have trouble sleeping are rich. So what does that mean? If you can't sleep, you must be rich. This is it. Just turn to your neighbor and you say, "That's me, man. I'm rich. I'm rich." Now, you may be rich in problems. That's why you can't sleep. But you probably, you think about rich people have trouble sleeping because they have so many things on their mind, so many responsibilities. They're trying to take care of everything. They're struggling sleeping. So you just can't sleep. And then there's another line here, and I kind of added a bit to it. It's like when you're trying to go forward, but you're stuck in reverse. Have you seen this video? I think this is a hilarious video. It's about being stuck in reverse. It's this guy who thinks he can hang on to that boat, but it's just not going to work out well for him. This is just hilarious to me. Isn't it torture? How's the rash going on in his life? That's like when you're trying to go forward, but you're stuck in reverse, and everything in your life is pulling you the wrong way. When tears come streaming down your face and you're having trouble sleeping. So, do you feel like that guy? Do you feel like this? Now look at the next line here. It says this. When you lose something you can't replace. When you lose something you can't replace. What is it that you can't replace that you can lose? Someone told me last service how it was great. Time. Sometimes you spend all this time, I can't get that back. Health. When you lose your health and there's nothing you can do, you have money, you have everything, but you don't have your health, it's so difficult, isn't it? You lose something that you can't replace. Sometimes you lose finances and there's no way for you to earn it back and it's just lost. Or somebody that has stolen something from you and you just can't replace it. And then the next line goes on and it says, when you love somebody but it goes to waste. And it's kind of the same thing. You lose some person. Sometimes that person that you love actually dies and you've lost them, or sometimes they divorce you, or sometimes they break up with you, or sometimes you have a broken relationship and you just lose that person. You loved them so much, but you can't replace them. And that loss creates one word. You know what that one word is? Depression. Depression is always connected to loss. And if you pinpoint what you've lost, you can begin to deal with your depression. This song and the words just, we can relate to, can't we? And then it says, the lights will guide you home. Now, if you're a boater, you have to go through a boat licensing process, and there's an 8-hour video that you have to watch. And for 6 hours of that 8-hour video, they tell you how to follow the red and green lights. And sometimes the red light, you stay left. Sometimes the red light, you stay right. And sometimes the green light, you stay... And it takes 6 hours to explain to you how you're supposed to respond to the red lights and green lights. But the lights are supposed to guide you. And I think this is kind of interesting. The writer of the song, Chris, says, hey, Gwyneth, there's going to be some lights that will lead you. And we believe that. We believe there's a light that can lead you and ignite your bone. And then it goes on and says, I'll try and fix you. The last line that I like, that I think he gets right, but if you never try, you'll never know just what you're worth. I think this song, it kind of all comes down to it. It describes all the things that you go through in life. And then it says this, you got to try. Don't give up. So if you're here today and you're in one of those moments and you have one of those wins in your life, when you've tried your best and you can't succeed, when you got what you want, not what you need, all of those things, if you've done all of those things, and he says, just don't give up. Because you're worth it. This is powerful. The song gets that right. But there's something the song does not get right. Here's what the song says. I'll try and fix you. I will try and fix you. Now, I want to tell you, it's not going to work. I can't fix you. You know how I know that? For 45 years, my wife has been trying to fix me. And just the other day, I left the freezer open, and she goes, come on, and this morning I left the seat up, and you know what I'm talking about. She's never fixed me. It's not ever going to work. She's not going to be successful fixing me. And I can't fix her, and I can't fix you, and you can't fix you. In fact, the good news today is not that we can fix ourselves, that someone else can fix us, but there is a God in the universe that sent his son, Jesus Christ, that every problem that we face, every bit of our brokenness, he has the ability to fix us. He does. And Paul wrote a letter that kind of mirrors this song. He wrote a letter to a group of people in Corinth that really needed some fixing. And in 2 Corinthians, we pick up this letter that has some powerful truths that mirror this song. So let's look at it. We now have this light shining in our hearts. It's kind of cool. You remember how the song says that lights will lead us home? No, there's a light. His name is Jesus Christ, and he is that light that will lead us home. And this light is shining in our hearts. What does that mean? That means he has come into our light. We invite him into our heart, but we ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing a great treasure. Now, a lot of people think about this. If you're new and you don't know anything about God and you come and you say, man, I really need to fixing, we have to start the fix by inviting the God of the universe through Jesus Christ into our heart. He's that light. But here's the problem. This is what it looks like when he comes to us. Our fragile jar is broken and it's in pieces. And when he finds us, we can't put ourselves together, and neither can anyone else. Yet he says, I will fix you. The next verse actually describes it the best as it can be described. This makes it clear that our great power is from, what does it say? God. It's from God and not ourselves. Our power to change us is God's power. Now I want you to think with me for a minute. 30 years ago, I stayed in Wenatchee. I lived here for 1 year. And I came here because of health reasons. I had been in ministry for 14 years, and after 14 years, I'd lost my health. I hadn't managed my life well, and I had lost my health. I contracted Meniere's disease. I was in the early 30s, and I couldn't do anything. Every third day, I would have an attack that was a dizzy spell that would make me throw up and be in bed. I couldn't do anything all day. I couldn't move. I couldn't see. I couldn't look. I couldn't read. I couldn't do anything. And I remember for 1 year, I thought maybe if I just took a year off that my body would recover and I'd get better and things would be better. But after a year, I was no better than when I started. And I remember just saying to God, okay, God, I'm not going to get better. I can't fix myself, but I need your help. And my family gathered around me and they prayed for healing. And it was a powerful prayer. And I remember saying to God, okay, God, I have 2 good days and 1 bad day. I'll give you my good days and you help me with my bad days. And I got in the truck and I remember we loaded my 2 kids. Pastor Daniel was one at the time, and Kristen was another one. And we had 2 kids, a dog, and a bird in the front seat of a U-Haul moving van. And we were driving over Stevens Pass, and on the top of the pass, I got another Meniere's attack, and I started to get dizzy, and I just did my best to drive the van to the house where I was going to unload it, and I laid on the grass throwing up. I couldn't even help unload the truck. And I remember crying out to God, help me with my bad days. You know what God did? For 30 years, I haven't had another bad day. I'm so grateful for that. You see, that's my fragile clay pot. And if you're here today and you're facing some kind of physical thing today and you need that fixed in your life, the good news is today that God can help you with that. He has the power to help you. And if he doesn't fix it, he has the power to help you work through it. He's here today and he wants to fix you. I remember at the end of the service one day, we had a can up front, just like this can, it was our Believe can, and we were asking people to put the stuff that were impossible in their life, that they just needed to believe that God could do the impossible, and they were putting things in their Believe can. And I remember this, I stood by the can, and I remember this young man who was thin and shaking and trembling, and he walked forward and he put his thing in the can and he walked over to me and he grabbed me and he hugged me and he trembled and he said, Pastor, I'm hooked on meth and I can't do anything about it. I need his help. Would you pray for me? And I embraced him and we cried together and I asked the God of the universe to just do something that only he could do and to relieve this man and to help him do what he couldn't do on his own because he couldn't fix him. His friends couldn't fix him. His family couldn't fix him. This guy needed God. And I remember him walking away and I was thinking to myself, He needs to get into a program. He needs to be in the help. And I thought of all the things, and I wanted to follow him out, and I just didn't get a chance to catch up with him. And I thought, oh, what's going to happen to this guy? 2 weeks later, there was a young man that ran up to me in the parking lot. He was dressed well, and he looked so different. And he walked up. He said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry, I don't remember you." He says, "I was the guy that hugged you 2 weeks ago. I haven't had a single craving since. God's delivered me from that." And I look at that and I think, man, I don't know what you're facing today. I don't know what addictions you have in your life. I don't know whatever it is that needs to fix you. And he may not do it the way that he did that man that day, but I've got some news for you today. The power is not from ourselves, but from God. There was another couple that came. It was their very last time. They were ready to give up. Their next decision that week would be to go to divorce court, and they decided that it was a last chance to go to church. So they showed up at the back, and that day I was preaching on Hosea. And Hosea 1:2, it says, God said to Hosea, "Go marry a prostitute." It's a fascinating, interesting book. If you want to read it, it's fascinating. And I was preaching on unfaithfulness and our unfaithfulness and all this, and I didn't realize that this couple had been unfaithful to each other, and they were so broken, and they didn't know how to deal with their anger and all their stuff, and they came forward, and they asked the God of the universe to heal their marriage. And they're still married to this day. It's the power of God, not our power. We can't fix each other. We can't fix our kids. We can't fix our spouse. We can't fix our friends. It's God who helps us. That's his power. Now, this next verse, he goes on to say this. And Paul was there with his friends, and he says this about what he was going through in his life. We're pressed down on every side by troubles, but we're not crushed. We're perplexed, but we're not driven to despair. We're hunted down, but we're never abandoned by God. We get knocked down, but we're never destroyed. Man, I tell you, I would not want to travel with Paul. He's living in a dangerous neighborhood because wherever he goes, trouble happens. But here's what he's saying. It doesn't matter what happens. No matter how many times I get knocked down, I keep getting up because it is God who helps me. It's kind of like a Rocky movie who he just keeps getting up over and over again. And this next verse says it. That is why we never give up. Though our bodies are dying, our spirits are being renewed every day. Now I want you to look at that. I underlined renewed every day. You know what? You know how fix you happens? You know how he puts our pieces back together? Our little fragile body, our little life on this earth is so fragile and so difficult, and we have so many problems, but he puts us back together. And then there's something, it says that our spirits inside of us, the spiritual side of us, get renewed every day. So the fix you starts today, and it happens again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. And if you want to start today, you can know that the God of the universe wants to fix you. But it happens every day of our lives. Now here's what Paul goes on to say. For our present troubles are, what's that word? Just say it. Okay, let me say it again. I'm going to read it again. This is your chance to participate. Our present troubles are. Okay, close your eyes. Picture your biggest problem that you're facing right now. Got it? Okay, open your eyes. Can you say that? Is your biggest problem small? How can Paul say that his problems are small? They're chasing him. They're eventually going to kill him. They're going to cut his head off. He's got some problems. Why is he saying they're small? Here's why he's saying they're small. Because he sees God is so much bigger than the problem that he has. And his eyes are on God and not on his problems. And so his problems seem small when it's compared to God. So I don't know what kind of problems you have in your life, but I want you to say it out loud. How big are they? They are small. They're small. Now look at the next word. They won't last very long. Some of you are saying, I don't know. My problems are going to last a while. How do you say they won't last long? It's because this life, this fragile life that we have, it's only this much compared to eternity. And when you have eyes on eternity, the struggles that you have in this life seem so short compared to eternity. And so we get our eyes off of problems that seem to last, but it's only going to last this long. That gives us hope because this life is short. What's the third thing? Yet they produce. Now here's the good news. Whether you caused the problems or someone else caused the problems in your life, they're going to produce. What do they produce? They produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. See, problems are the things that God uses to build character in our life, to build our life the way he needs them. And so every problem you have has a purpose, whether it's your fault or someone else's fault. God wants to produce in you something that will last forever. So your problems, what's the word? Okay, that means produce. Let me just give you the answer. Let me try it again. Your problems produce. Now we go on. Verse 18. So we don't look at the troubles that we can see now. Paul's saying, I'm not looking at this stuff that's happening right now. Rather, we fix our eyes on things that cannot be seen. What is that? That's the spiritual realm. We live in the physical realm, but there's this spiritual realm that's so much deeper. Things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. What are you looking at today? There's a spiritual power that he has available for you that will produce lasting results in eternity. So there's a message for you today that God has. It's the message of this song. I will try and fix you. That's what God says to you. It's his message to you. I don't know what needs to be fixed in your life, but God says to you, I'll try and fix you. But there's a problem here. You'll never know unless you try. If you never try,